Good thing I got that out of the way before we started. Excuse me. Hold on. Okay. Are we sharing? Yes. All right, here we go.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who'd have thought they'd lead you? Who'd have thought they'd lead you? Back here where we need you. Back here where we need you. Yeah, we tease him a lot, cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
The feel-good, jaunty song.
Welcome back. You remember that? Did you watch that show when you were growing up?
What show was that too?
Welcome Back, Carter.
Welcome Back, Carter. I did not watch that. I'm aware of it, but I didn't watch it.
So my Vinnie Barbarino impression would be lost on you, probably.
Well, I'm familiar with it, but that was actually just before Travolta really started to make it big.
Yeah.
So it was just slightly before my time.
Yeah, it was before like Saturday Night Fever and Staying Alive and all that stuff.
You gotta remember, that show was it 76, 77?
It was the late 70s. Yeah, I said I'd see. Yeah,
I was like 3 or 4, so I don't think I'd been watching TV at that time.
I'd say late 70s, early 80s because I remember it really well. And if it was like on when I was like 5 or 6, I wouldn't have remembered it very well. But that was like I remember the Wonderful World of Disney and Wild Kingdom at that age.
Yeah, well, I remember Sesame Street and Cookie Monster and The Count and all that stuff.
My mom would not let me watch that because she thought it was beneath my intelligence level when I was 5.
Oh, that's sad.
No, it's all right. She made me like look things up in the encyclopedia and make a mark by it every time I looked it up, and she would look to make sure I didn't look things up more than once.
No, you had to have Sesame Street, which I don't know if you ever know this, but there's a banned episode of Sesame Street. Are you familiar with this?
I've heard it. I don't remember the.
I actually have watched it. It was the episode where they had the Wicked Witch of the West on, and apparently it scared children so badly that parents calling the stations about their kids crying that they refused to ever air it again.
Hey man, I get that. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang scared the shit out of me because of that. That whole evil thing going on. It scared me. I was scared of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, that show. Couldn't watch it.
Well, we had Sesame Street, and then on right after that was the Electric Company, where you'd have two like shadowy type figures.
Yes.
That would be like k-at. That's how I learned how to spell cat.
I got in trouble. I know exactly what you're talking about. I used to watch that. There was a dude that I was in a group at the VA with, and we were bored shitless because of what the subject was, and the counselor was cool, but we were just like, oh, been over this before. And I go, you know what this is? It's shh, and he'd go, it.
I think all kids played that game.
Well, dude, I'm like 40 at the time, so I can't really. Now, actually, I was like 50 at the time. So, and he was probably the same age. And God, she got so mad at us. She's like, well, she didn't get mad. She had a smirk on her face. She goes, "Excuse me, gentlemen, do you have something to share?" And I go, "Shh," to him. And I go, it was pretty funny. Everybody started laughing. But yeah, we played that game in a group at the VA. Yeah, it was kind of funny. So welcome to the Two Grumpy Bastards podcast. It's been a while. Russ is back looking tan, rested and ready from vacation.
Mostly tan, except for up here.
Oh my God, that's the worst farmer tan I've ever seen in my life. That's it. Yeah, you got a farmer's tan there, bro.
I did.
Yeah, you got a farmer's tan.
In the water park.
That's funny. Yeah, with my skin cancer, I can't really do what I used to do either. So I just like my forearms and the back of my neck are the only thing that gets sun now. So, and I shouldn't even expose my forearms. But yeah, here we are. It's been a busy week in the world, as you know, Russ. Lots going on. Some good news, some bad news, some really horrific news. I was going to tell you that I wanted to spend the first part of this podcast just talking about a contention that I have where I have shifted from the left being wrong when from the 90s when I first started really getting into politics to now having converted to full on evil. I had
Mhm.
somebody tell me because I went after somebody who's very progressive that lives in the same county I do, one of those urban people that moved in here and brought their
Yeah.
values and tries to judge everybody that grew up here. And then I got feedback from somebody else saying, "What makes you think progressive values aren't American values?" And I'm just like, um, they're just not. When I was, in my 20s, and I had a lot of liberal friends because I didn't have a choice because I lived in Seattle a lot. But it wasn't that big of a deal. We didn't talk politics that much, and I thought we were going to the same destination, just taking two different routes to get there. But
Yeah.
I believe, and that might have been mostly true in the Clinton administration. Like I said, Clinton would be a fascist Republican now.
He would
Um,
be a centrist Republican, yeah.
yeah,
Well, Clinton from 94, Clinton after 94.
right, right. But the world is rotting right now, and something happened in Great Britain just recently, and I'd like to kind of have you take us through what happened. I've got some videos to play at the end of it. Just a horrific example of what's going on in the world. Um, Henry Nowak, a young man, was murdered by an Indian Sikh. Um, in the streets of what I can't Southampton, I believe it was Southampton, London, I believe it was. Doesn't really matter where it was, but Can you take us through that? Give us a little bit of the play-by-play on what happened. And this is horrific. This is something that everybody on planet Earth needs to pay attention to.
Yeah, so Henry Nowak was walking through London and he got murdered by a British Sikh named Vikram Digwa, 23-year-old Sikh. And as the police showed up, the murderer, who was sentenced very recently to life in prison, but means he'll serve a minimum of 21 years because it's Britain, he'll probably be out after that. Um, he told the police that he was a victim of a racial attack. While after stabbing uh, Henry Nowak 5 times with a ceremonial Sikh dagger. A ceremonial Sikh dagger, by the way, that Prime Minister Keir Starmer had said he would, even though they've gone after knife crime in England, said he would not remove the ceremonial daggers because that would be racist and an affront to people's culture. To remove that kind of dagger, you got to remove all other kinds of knives, but ceremonial daggers, by some people, I guess, are fine. Um, well, coming upon the scene, you would expect the police to see this young man bleeding, render aid, arrest the person who stabbed him. And like I said, Digram said that he was a victim of a racial hate attack. And the police, first of all, Nowak said that he'd been stabbed, and the police said, "No, mate, I don't think you have."
Mhm.
They handcuffed Nowak while he was bleeding out. If you've ever watched the video, he's starting to gurgle and having some problems. His last words, very reminiscent of what kicked off the Summer of Love 6 years ago, were "I can't breathe." And then he passed away, and that was in December of last year. Well, it's back in the news for a couple reasons. First of all, the murderer, after the kid died, the police were suddenly like, "Oh shit, maybe something else happened here." He was just found guilty, sentenced to life in prison. And the Southampton police released the video, the body cam footage of what happened to Nowak. Well, the issue here, one of the issues here is that it was the default position of the police that Nowak, being white, was obviously a racist and in the wrong. The
Mhm.
fact that Digram was able to say he was a victim of a racial attack and the cops bought it without question, they accepted it as foundational, um, shows that it is a part of their training and a part of their system now because they accepted it uncritically. They merely assumed that Digram was right and Nowak was wrong. What that has led to, since the body cam footage has been laid out, is a large series of protests in Southampton where folks are starting to riot a little bit. And then you've got a couple of different reactions. The Reform Party, who is probably going to win the next election. If y'all don't know, the Reform Party in local elections swept a whole bunch of townships in England about a month ago.
Hmm.
Maybe not even.
Yep.
I don't know if it's that long ago, but it was somewhere about a month ago, where Reform, which didn't exist a few years ago, swept through.
Right.
Nigel Farage and a lot of the Reform members were talking about how this shows that importing third world cultures that don't share British values is probably not the safest for British society. And they're making a lot of inroads, and they're talking about how this is terrible, and it shows the failures of the current immigration policies, where Britain, I believe, since 1950, but it's accelerated over the last 25 years, ever since Tony Blair, um, have imported more people since 1950 than they did between 1066 and the Battle of Hastings and 1950.
Right.
So that's pretty big. Reform has picked up a lot of disaffected conservative voters. Conservative Party in Britain basically is a rump party. They don't exist as an entity anymore because they became Labour light. So people are like, well, I mean, even though Labour and Keir Starmer won the last British election in a landslide, they didn't increase their vote totals. The folks who were conservative Party voters just didn't show up to vote. So that's what accounted for the margin. But Reform is talking up how this is a tragedy, how this shows we shouldn't import people who don't share our values, etc. Well, Labour, parts of the British cabinet, and Keir Starmer himself, they're not necessarily talking about how bad the murder was. They're talking about how bad the reaction to the murder is, as if it was Nowak's fault for being stabbed, or it was Reform and other people's fault for noticing the circumstances. So rather than join in with people and try to come up with an actual solution, they are playing defense because they know this is very bad for them politically. I have been waiting for Britain to kind of explode for the last few years, and this is another. This lit another fuse in that. I don't know that Keir Starmer can keep it down, but Britain is probably on the verge of a full scale rebellion. It's coming close. It's not there yet, but another two or three incidents like this that grab public attention will get it there without question. The It shows that there is a new racial hierarchy in Britain, and it is a reverse of what it had historically been. Some people will cheer that on, say, yeah, it's about time. Some people will point out that, hey, the folks who are alive today never participated in that stuff. So racism and bigotry by any name is still racism and bigotry. They have just not really. They've turned everything on its head, and folks have gotten away with stuff based on the color of their skin. Now, granted, Digram is in jail. He did finally get, he did get tried. He did get convicted. But in that moment, the police showed a societal and systemic bias, which I don't use those words lightly. But it was their default position when they came upon the scene. If they had reacted rationally, they didn't even have to arrest Digram in the moment. If they had gotten Nowak medical treatment,
Exactly.
called for an ambulance, started treating his wounds right away, the boy might still be alive.
Hmm.
But that wasn't the default position. Was he's a racist? This guy called him a racist, said he called him racial names, so we're going to arrest this kid who has been stabbed. How they didn't notice the stab wounds until it was too late, until he said, "I can't breathe," I don't know. But before I turn it over to you, notice the differences in the reaction between this and what happened to George Floyd. Even though George Floyd happened in America, Keir Starmer, who was at that point the leader of the opposition, and a whole bunch of Labour MPs and a whole bunch of British police at protests and stuff knelt for George Floyd. They were protesting Britain for what happened in our country to George Floyd.
Yep.
There is silence on that stuff in Britain. Nobody in authority is kneeling. Nobody's paying homage. Nobody's scrawling the words "I can't breathe" on bridges or rocks or paintings.
No, no, no.
Murals of Henry Nowak.
Nothing.
Yeah, and that demonstrates a very clear double standard. Look, I have my own opinions about George Floyd. I don't think it's quite as cut and dried as people want to believe it was, based on the fentanyl they found in his system, based on the fact he was saying, I can't breathe, before anybody ever put him on the ground. That doesn't justify what Derek Chauvin did. But then you're looking at the differences between second-degree murder and third-degree murder, which is the Minnesota equivalent of manslaughter. That's all different nuances. But it's been the muted reaction towards what happened in Nowak that shows that this is not about principle. This is about identity politics. It's about identitarianism. And I'm not sure that anything is more certain to set off an actual violent rebellion than telling people that laws and standards apply differently based on the melanin count in your skin.
I think England suffers from something similar to what guilty white liberals here in this country suffer from, is some made up generational guilt about the fact that the British Empire was treated people of color like India, some of the incursions in India and all over the world. I think that, and I've researched a little bit to try to figure out what's going on. What's their motivation for allowing this war on the West? The influx of refugees and immigrants, and there's a war on the West going on right now. There's absolutely no denial of that. And when you say war on the West, that mainly is a war on people with white skin color. And those two things are interlocked. So I think the British colonial attitude, the fact that they were the greatest empire for centuries, a couple of centuries there, I think there's probably some institutional guilt that's been pushed on the British people, probably through their education system, just like here in this country, where, we're colonials and all that stuff. The one thing that I was thinking of today, which is interesting, is like, unlike America, the one thing you can say about England is that white people are the indigenous race of the British Empire or British islands. They're the indigenous race, whether you're talking Scots, the Welsh, the Irish, or the Anglos, the Anglo-Saxons, and all of that occupied. There was no other indigenous people. I mean, even the Druids, have their roots in Irish and Scottish, Celtic backgrounds. The tribes that fought the Romans, the Picts and the Visigoths, and all those were white folk. Unlike this country, where you can't say whites were indigenous, but I'll save my ire about what indigenous actually means. The Diluvian folks and all that were here long before the American Indians. But hey, we'll say that for another discussion. But what really disturbs me about this, it kind of brought me back to I feel really bad. The victim, not the basketball player, but he has the same name, different spelling. Carmelo Anthony, that young black.
Oh yeah, the kid in Texas.
That stabbed the white kid at a track meet and killed him. Mm-hmm. And I think it was like $500,000 was raised for his defense by people.
He bought a house with it.
Yeah, and isn't that amazing that this MFer and his family, who failed society, were rewarded for killing a white kid? That's what it was. It was like a bounty on a white kid. Can you imagine donating to a murderer like that who stabbed this white kid? And they bought a house and got a really good. I can't. Do you know what happened to Carmelo Anthony as far as his sentencing, or where that happened?
Sentenced yet. He's about to go to trial, I think.
That's what I thought. I didn't look that up, but it just kind of beat in my brain today. Speaking,
well, it shouldn't matter that he stabbed a white kid or a brown kid or
no.
He stabbed another kid.
If he would have stabbed another black kid, it never would have made the news. Because
no, but he still should have gone to trial for it.
Absolutely, but it never would have made the news, because look what happens in Detroit on a weekend. Mass shootings all over the place. You don't ever hear about those. But the disturbing thing about, let's go back to the Henry Nowak case. I was reading about it today, and he had a 9-centimeter penetration in his chest. 9 centimeters is a lot, folks. And which took out some vital, long and vital veins. He had stabs to his groin, his leg, and his face. So this wasn't a self-defense or get away from me or any of this. This was a deliberate And
Yep.
that's methodology. If you're going to stab somebody all over their body like that, one stab in the chest, stab to the face, stab to the groin, boy, you're going to town. That's like good old fashioned prison shivving right there, baby. So this MFer had every intent to kill this kid. Every intent. There's no other way around it. And I also thought Starmer is God, he should be scissoring with Trudeau right now. He is one of the worst human beings on planet Earth. And he's not even like soy boys would be able to kick his ass. That's how bad Starmer is. And it's so horrible when you think about some of the great leaders that England had, the Thatchers and the Churchills, and all these people like the Iron Lady, Margaret Thatcher. God, I grew up with her as the Prime Minister of England, and she was a
fixture.
Her and Reagan together, woohoo! I always had.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Her, Reagan, and John Paul II probably defeated communism.
They did defeat communism. I always used to joke, like, if they could genetically combine Reagan and Margaret Thatcher into a super child, it would rule the universe. Yeah. It would rule the universe. But and you think about Starmer allowing I've got Viking blood. I've got a broadsword about 12 feet behind me up on the wall, a real one that my dad made me. It's actually a claymore. But shouldn't I be able to carry that around because of my Viking heritage? I mean, we use those, the Vikings use those in ceremonies too. Shouldn't I be able to carry that? I mean, isn't that a logical extension of that policy? Really, honestly.
Flaming arrows at boats in the river?
Why not? I always told everybody I want a Viking funeral, and I looked it up, and it's illegal to do that. Why? Why is that illegal? You don't have to slaughter any virgins or anything like that. I wouldn't even have you kill my dog and put him in there. Well, no, I probably would. But why can't I do that? Why isn't that? I mean, you have a person that can carry around. Did you see? Not the knife. But you see the representation of what those knives are? Yeah,
like I said, for Britain wanting to crack down on knife crime, that's almost pure evil.
I love that they call it knife crime. Just like in America, United States, we call it gun crime. There's no such thing. There's crime. It's crime. It's perpetrated by a person. And if they didn't have that, I mean, maybe I should carry around something like Mjolnir, a big old hammer, because of my Viking heritage. And I'd wear that on my belt, and that would be just as lethal as a knife, even more so any day of the week. It's fucking disgusting. It's disgusting, and you can't tell me that there isn't it's like a bounty, a war on white people. It really is. It boils down to that. That's not maybe the intent, but that's the logical boiling it down when you condense it. Go ahead.
I want to make one real quick point. You talked about British generational guilt. It's also a failure of the British educational system and the educational system in the West. I don't know if you saw Konstantin Kissin take apart a British panel on this. But,
I did.
A lot of people blame the West for slavery and stuff. And Konstantin Kissin pointed out that the reason there is no slavery in the parts of the world where slavery has been abolished is because the British Empire ended it.
Mm-hmm.
The British Empire expended an amazing amount of blood and treasure.
100%.
They had a joint treaty with the United States called the Webster-Ashburton Treaty of 1842 that established a joint naval patrol off the African coast in order to stop the transatlantic slave trade.
Yep.
That was Britain that did that.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I mean, everybody's had slaves. We've talked about that. The British were the first that actively used their military to stop worldwide slave trading. And that doesn't get talked about because people just assume that it never happened. Well, there's reasons why slavery doesn't exist today. And that's a large part because, we could talk in America about the Civil War and the Union soldiers who fought against it and stuff. That's all great. And that's perfectly rational to bring up. But the biggest factor in eliminating the worldwide slave trade was the British Navy. The British Navy sunk boats. They interdicted boats. They were off the coast of Africa, stopping this thing, and they lost sailors. They expended an enormous amount of money stopping the slave trade, and they don't get any credit for it because nobody wants to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. I'm really glad you brought that up. I wouldn't have thought to bring that up. That is a very important. We're coming up on the 250th anniversary of our country and our liberation from the Empire of Great Britain. And it's easy. It's easy. There's some. In case you guys didn't realize, there's some really great merchandise at twogrumpybastardsmerchandise.com celebrating the. Did you see our latest one with the George Washington?
I did.
Yeah, you like that one? I kind of like that
Yeah.
one. I was
I
proud
gotta
of it.
go in there and get some of our merchandise.
Yeah, I got to grab some. I haven't bought myself anything. I can't yell at anybody else. Um, but yeah, that's a new one that I put out yesterday. Um, the fact of the matter is, the British Empire did far more good for the world than what you can do. If you look at it fair and in balance, did far more good for the world. Like the East India Trading Company, okay, that which they were basically like BlackRock to a certain extent in India, where a lot of the soldiers didn't belong to the British Army. They were actually mercenaries for the company, which of course was basically owned by the British government to a very large extent. Yes, but the civilization that they brought, there's a vast difference. And I know this is going to be a little controversial for some folks. There's a vast difference. I mentioned the indigenous people of England being, of white descent. There's a whole bunch of, I won't get into the whole genealogy of it. I've studied a lot, but there's a big difference between what's going on now and what's happening in our country to a very large extent. And I think one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this is because it's going on in our country too, where Islam and people that are accepting of, like, free Palestine and pro-Islam and stuff. Do you have any idea what you're fucking around with? Do you have any idea the dragon that you've let in the front door? You really don't. There's a big difference between when the West colonized North America and brought civilization and education and all of this other stuff to the North American shores and to the continent eventually, and spread out across the entire continent, to what's going on in Europe, to what's going on in the United States now. These people aren't there to improve things or bring civilization. They're there to destabilize it and bring things like Sharia law and chaos. And I don't understand. This is where I lose myself completely, and where I go, we'll have the conversation maybe next time about how I really believe that we've shifted from a disagreement to absolute evil, from the left and from these other groups. There's a big difference between bringing civilization and capitalism and free market. Look, I mean, the British Empire brought that to India. Was there a lot of really horrible stuff that happened in between and all? Yes, but did they bring that to India? Did they move India centuries forward in history because of what they brought? Yes. North America, same thing. Okay. Well, it's not the same thing. It was a much bigger scale thing, but they brought good things, civilization. Bad things happen. I'm not going to sit here and say it was fair that what happened to all the Indian tribes and stuff like that. I'm not going to defend that. There was a lot of horrible things that happened. But if you were going to do a plus and minus column, plus, right? But what's happening now is you have people that are trying to destabilize civilization and wipe out Western culture. I really do believe that. I believe that is the agenda.
Well, all right. So two quick points. One thing that the first is something that people tend to take our freedoms for granted nowadays. They don't understand. They haven't always been there.
Right.
When the freedoms came to this country, they were rooted in British tradition. They were rooted in the Magna Carta. They were rooted in British common law. The whole idea behind free speech, behind freedom of religion and worship, behind the ability to defend yourself, those all came from our tradition as British subjects. That's why those things were planted in the New World. And the second thing that I want to bring up, people talk about, Islam never conquered anybody and they were one of the most advanced civilizations of the world. There's two things on that. First of all, Islam was a conquering civilization. From about the middle of the 7th century, they conquered a vast empire that stretched across the Middle East, came out of Arabia, stretched across the Middle East, stretched into North Africa, stretched all the way to Spain.
Mm-hmm.
They were stopped outside the gates of Austria, outside the gates of Vienna, somewhere around, I want to say it was like 1450 something, I believe.
Yeah, it was.
I might be wrong.
Towards the end of the 15th century. I don't remember what year, but yeah, you're on the good track.
It was a conquering ideology.
Absolutely.
But the second thing is, yes, from about the 8th century to the 14th century, the Islamic countries in the Middle East were amongst the most civilized and the most advanced. But that's because they were balancing reason with religion. Around the 14th, 15th century, they fell into fundamentalism,
Yes.
and they started getting rid of the precepts of reason, the precepts of science, and that's what's the challenge today is because if everything is fundamentalism, then you can't advance out of a more theocratic uh, type of mindset. You have to
Right.
balance that reason and the religion, and if you fall too far one way or the other, that's where things go out of balance, and that's why these civilizations have not risen. It's not got to do anything with Western colonialism. Shoot, for the Middle East, the so-called Western colonialism existed for what 25, 30 years after the fall of the Ottoman Empire. I mean, the Ottoman Empire ruled that entire area for about 5 centuries.
Yep.
It wasn't like the West went in there and started establishing Damascus and Baghdad and Riyadh.
Right.
I mean, the
Right.
Ottoman Empire ruled that entire area up until the end of World War II, and then the British took it over for the British and the French took it over for about 30 years. They didn't plant a whole lot of colonies. They did make mistakes drawing straight lines on maps, not adhering to religious boundaries, tribal boundaries, etc. They should have done a better job of that. But 30 years is not going to have the impact that 500 years had. It's not going to have the impact of the conquering armies coming out of Mecca and Medina. So I think people fall back to that because it's easy. They ignore a whole bunch of stuff. They want to point to Iran and the overthrow of Massageddar. Um, they claim it was a CIA-backed coup, ignoring that the Shah of Iran had the constitutional authority as a monarch to remove Massageddar as prime minister, to put in his own prime minister, especially when Massageddar decided to disband the parliament, when Massageddar was an avowed communist in the early, very bitterly cold days of the Cold War, and the United States had a vested national interest in seeing the Soviets not gain a foothold in Iran and in the Middle East.
Right.
These geopolitical realities are a lot more complex than people want to boil them down to, because people want to make it simple because simple is not hard. Simple doesn't hurt your brain. But you've got to actually understand complete context, the underlying structures and the reality lines that go everywhere before you can get an informed opinion. But nobody wants to do that because, again, that's tough, and that doesn't make people uh, be able to feel that righteous rage quite as brightly as they want.
Excellent points. I think to back up what you're saying, I was going to bring this up anyway, but it dovetails nicely on what you said. You needn't look no further than you're 100% right. The Arab culture and the Muslim people were very advanced in a lot of ways. I mean, science. I mean, we still use Arabic numerals. I mean, a lot of Western stuff was influenced by Arabic influences. Science. They had great scientists.
Astronomy,
Astronomy.
telescopy.
But look what happened when they went fundamental. How much of those you've been to those countries, Russ? You've been to those countries. You know what they look like. They're in Iraq. Stone Age motherfuckers living everywhere. I mean, there was no advancement past the 15th century. Seriously, well, you can argue that. Where on the other side, the great societies of Europe and stuff like that. I'm wearing my St. Michael's shirt. I don't know if you noticed that today.
Yeah.
But the Catholic Church was really the one thing that helped advance science. And the Jesuit order, the teaching and the missionaries and stuff like that, the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, all that happened there in the mid part of the last. Go ahead, in the last millennium.
There's just one other thing I want to point out that the Catholic Church, especially through Charlemagne, did that doesn't get enough credit. That is still in practice in large parts of the world, but it really helped the advancement of the West.
Mm-hmm.
Was the Catholic Church outlawed cousin marriage. And that is one of the things that, because if you get cousins marrying each other all over the place, that limits IQ. That creates low IQ offspring. That's just a genetic reality. And then there are large swaths of the world that still view cousin marriage as the default and the norm rather than something to be avoided. You need the genetic diversity. And look, Europe fought wars over this. Charlemagne had to have people actually go out and physically enforce lack of cousin marriage. It took a generation or several generations before that faded, and it still was prevalent in more primitive parts of Europe and America, quite frankly, in the South, for a while. But overcoming that level of genetic restriction is another thing that helped the West advance that other parts of the world have not understood yet.
Yes, and one thing that the church, in the early church, there's a fascinating course that everybody should take through Hillsdale College if you're into such things. It's early Christianity, and it talks about the development of the church prior to Christ, and then through his crucifixion, resurrection, and the early parts, the first, second, third century. It's fascinating stuff, and it talks about the Roman Empire and how that all fit. But we took a lot of if you read the Bible and you read the Old Testament, I'm not trying to get all weird about it, guys, relax. But if you read it, you'll notice that we took our marital practices right from the Jewish faith, which is one spouse, don't divorce, and no cousin, that was the Jewish faith. We took that right from it. No family members, wasn't allowed. They knew from their laws. If you read Leviticus, it's right there in Jewish law. And that you're right. The Catholic Church actually officially said, and that was more tradition based on some of those writings and laws. But the Catholic Church said, nope. That really helped. That really helped kind of progress. The Dark Ages, we still don't really know what happened there. It was kind of, a lot of plagues, a lot of horrible stuff happened in Europe. And that's kind of the time where things in the East kind of sped up and passed up Europe's ability to make any progress. But after that, if you look at it, fundamentalist hit, that whole culture and community just kind of stopped. However, I've posted a couple of videos. If you look at Iran prior to the Shah leaving and the assumption of the Ayatollah Khomeini, and Sharia law and all that, it looked like a Western city. It looked like San Jose, California or something. I mean, because of the Western culture and tradition there, because they adopted it. It wasn't something they developed on their own, folks. It was influenced by Western tradition.
And who, in addition to the fundamentalists, who were amongst the biggest folks cheering for the fall of the Shah? There's a bunch of liberal women who thought they were going to, have some kind of epic say in the government, not realizing that they were chaining themselves to the rock.
And the Shah by no means was Mr. Democracy, capitalist, dude. It was a hegemony to a very large extent, the Shah, and but it was a different. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I don't want to say it was a more moderate rule or a more, he was a more moderate hegemon than what you have now. But it wasn't the influence. It wasn't the enforcement of fundamentalist Sharia law.
When people ask, how could it get any worse? Well, the Ayatollah showed you how much worse it could get. Yes.
And we won't get into the whole ins outs. Maybe we'll talk about once Trump actually makes his mind up about this goddamn treaty with Iran and quits capitulating, and we won't get into that. I'm kind of mad about it myself, but
yeah, you saw my Facebook post.
I did, and I 100% agree with you. I'm getting kind of tired of this. Either bomb them to the Stone Age or tell them sign this, or we're going to fuck you up. Those are the only two things that I want to
criticize Trump. It's about this, but we can go into that later.
Yeah, we'll go into that later. Let me play. We're going to have to backtrack just a little bit, going back to Henry Nowak, and I wanted to show you some of the reactions that are going on right now. And I'd encourage you folks that listen to us on the podcast to go to our YouTube channel. I will have this video up sometime in the next 48 hours. This will drop on Wednesday night if you're listening to the podcast, but probably the next day will be the YouTube. But let me. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm out of practice. It's been a couple of weeks. All right, here we go.
It has.
It's been a couple of weeks.
Part of that was my fault for taking my family to Universal last week.
Oh, God help you. It's my fault for having really shitty health, too. All right, here we go.
You all been trained the same, have you? Kill white boys. Let the white boy die. You scum. The lot of ya.
To our podcast only listeners, this is showing the protests that the English people and the yelling at the police here.
Yes! I love that. Oh my days. How does that feel? Balls are getting chucked in. They're chucking the stuff away over the people's gardens. Here we go. Stuff is getting chucked in left, right, and centre.
They're throwing garbage cans for those.
Did you get that?
Yep.
I got it, but I don't know if I'll have it. Oh! Hit him with a brick straight in the head. Guys, we are lively. We are right in the thick of it. Racist police off our streets. Racist police off our streets. Racist police off our streets. Racist police off our...
You know, there's nothing actually kind of cooler than somebody with a thick Cockney accent being pissed off and yelling. It sounds pretty badass, if you ask me. You can't tell what the hell they're saying, but it's yeah, that's worse than a soccer match right there, bud, or a football match, I should say.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, the British did have the hooligans, and for all the genteel nature we attribute to the Brits, let's not forget that they stood alone against the Germans for a couple of years.
Yep.
They were the only ones who went through the entirety of World War II from day one to the very end. I mean, when they want to be badass, they can be. So it takes a lot to provoke them into that, but if you do, God help you.
Yeah, the whole you know, we got the American macho. They've got the stiff upper lip. That whole stiff upper lip thing, that's integral to their culture. They've been through a lot. I mean, can you imagine those being in London when the V2 rockets were hitting and having, you know, being just living in fear all the time? It's one of the reasons that I respect the Israeli people, is because living under constant stress and fear like that. Yeah, I've always had a soft spot for the Brits, despite the fact that, you know, we like to have fun with the fact that one of our shirts shows George Washington beating the shit out of King George.
Yeah.
And which I got to get that shirt. That's pretty awesome, I got to admit. But just for fun. But no, I've always had the utmost respect for Brits in general. And I'm actually really looking forward to, not to change the subject, I swear, but I'm looking forward to this new movie about the Weatherman D-Day, where our guy Brendan Fraser is playing Eisenhower.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to make a leap to buy him as Eisenhower, but I saw the Weatherman dude.
I am too, but it couldn't be worse than Tom Selleck playing him in that miniseries on TV. That was horrible.
True.
That was the worst miscasting I've ever seen. It's like I pictured him rolling up to British headquarters in a Lamborghini, you know, or whatever he drove. I can't remember what he drove in that series. But yeah, it's a mess. It's a complicated mess. And you know, I know us white folk, and like I said, by the way, just talking about white folk, I'm whiter than Casper's ass. Did I tell you that I got my renewed genetic thing from 23andMe and from genealogy.com?
You did not tell me that.
Yeah, so you remember how I thought I was Ukrainian and Russian?
Yeah.
I'm Lithuanian.
Oh, you did tell me about this.
Yes.
I do know you tell me something about this now.
I got a smattering of that, but they've made, you know, they keep your DNA sample, and as the tests get more refined, they update you. I had no idea, but I am largely Lithuanian.
That's awesome.
German, Viking, Scot, Lithuanian, Russian. That is weird.
That's an interesting combination.
Can you imagine that being an alcoholic beverage? That would taste really, really,
really bad.
Little schnapps, a little vodka. Yeah, no, that would be a little curdled goat's milk or whatever. I don't know why I said that. I think that's what the Vikings drink. But anyway, let's move along if you'd like.
Okay.
That was kind of a big deal. Let me lighten the mood here for just a second and play another. Oh, by the way, I did want to ask you. Did you see any of Marco Rubio's testimony his testimony
where he?
Sorry, I got the church on my mind.
The woman who was storming out of the room was like, "Hey, where's she going? I want to answer her question."
It was.
The one that asked about the shoes. He's like, "You can see my shoes from up there. They fit me just fine."
God, he was such a smartass. He did you catch it when Senator Duckworth, who is just a cast iron cunt, she's one of the worst people on planet Earth. She thinks so highly of herself. She reminds me of these two senators we out here in Washington, Patty Murray and Maria Cantwell, are just horrible human beings. She thinks so highly of herself, and she accused him of being at a party during the negotiations with Iran, and he said to her, he goes, I know that fits that. I saw your cute little memo that you put out for your TikTok channel, but it's not true. And he was like, I was here, I was with the president, I was doing this. So she came up with this complete lie saying that he was not in on the negotiations or anything like that he was at a party. I have proof. There's video. And he's like, yeah, I saw your cute little memo that you put out for your little TikTok channel. And he doesn't even say it. He says it's such an even keel. And you can, I'm sorry. I want him to be president in 2028.
Let me say here's what I would like to see happen. I would like Trump to go to J.D. Vance and say, hey, look, dude, you're not the future of the party right now. You can come back in a few years, but it's Marco's to do. And then J.D. Vance comes out with something like, hey, I've got a young family. My wife is pregnant now. She is actually, I think she is pregnant now. She's got some young children.
Yeah. Yep.
I want to spend time with my children while they're young. I'm not going to run for president, and open the door for Marco Rubio. Because if Rubio decided to run against Vance, that would be a very tight race, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
If Vance got out of the way, I think Rubio would win the nomination in a walk.
I do too. I like Vance a lot. I make no mistake. I think the world of Vance. He's an American success story, like almost nobody else in politics. He's an amazing guy. Did you ever read the book or see the movie?
I've got it. I've got Hillbilly Elegy saved on my Netflix. I just haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, it's really well done. I read the book and watched the movie. It's really well done. And it's pretty extraordinary. People are, Vance. I'm like, really? Do yourself a favor and either watch the movie or read the book. Seriously, don't be an asshole. Don't be an idiot. Educate yourself. He's very admirable. But speaking of elections, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in California right now in the primaries for governor of California and the mayor of LA. Just real quick, I didn't see the latest for governor, but I did see the return just before we hopped on. I was watching the news, and Spencer Pratt, one of the most unlikely people ever to be mayor of a major city. We all remember him from being the asshole in reality TV, but I got to tell you, I've been very impressed with his campaign. Very impressed with him.
Oh yeah.
I think the world of the campaign he's running right now. What's her face? Bass. She got the latest I saw, and there's still a lot of reporting precincts, was 34.8%, which means that she's going to have to do a runoff with number 2. And Pratt was in the lead by quite a bit for the second place at 30.4%. That's the latest numbers I saw for mayor.
Here's the latest numbers I've got. With 62% of the vote being counted, Bass is at 35.0% with 183,701 votes. Spencer Pratt is in second, 29.9% with 157,116. And Nithya Raman is in third. She cried last night, by the way. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw that. I laughed.
22.8%, 119,809 votes. It should be Spencer Pratt's to lose right now in terms of getting to the runoff.
Right.
I do think it's criminal that California takes this long to count the votes.
Yeah, I can't believe it either. Results. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You should be able to count these votes in one night. Florida can do it in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
It should not take this long to count the votes because it undermines faith in the process. And if Spencer Pratt ends up falling to Nithya Raman, I don't think he will, but if he does, then that's going to open up all kinds of questions, especially in California. Now, let's be fair. Even going into the general, Spencer Pratt's going to be the underdog because LA is such a blue town. But it's gotten so bad, they can't rebuild. They can't rebuild these homes that burned. And they had, one of the most effective ads. Spencer Pratt went up to the reservoir and showed the reservoir is still dry. So if there's fires, they're going to sweep through neighborhoods again. You got, I don't know if you saw the MS Now. Where the reporter was questioning some of the Spencer Pratt folks, and they had to cut away because the Spencer Pratt folks were like, hey, look, you got folks on the street with human feces, having sex with their own hands, a bunch of homeless folks out here. And the MS Now reporters had to cut away. And one of these dudes grabbed the microphone and said, hey, look, we don't appreciate you, you little bitch, because we know that you're part of part of the
I didn't see that. I didn't see that.
We know who you're rooting for, so and it was hysterical to watch. I've been Spencer Pratt has done much better than anybody thought he would when he first got into the race. Everybody thought it was a joke.
Right.
What Spencer Pratt needs, in my opinion, first of all, what vaulted him into the lead, aside from some of the ads that Nithya Raman and Karen Bass cut, were actually Spencer Pratt ads, because they were so poorly managed in terms of showing what Spencer Pratt was about. Spencer Pratt's like, run those ads. But what really vaulted him was the debate, the LA mayor's debate. And he needs at least one, maybe two debates against Karen Bass. Will Karen Bass actually allow a debate between her and Spencer Pratt? I don't know, because it would hurt her. But he's still a long shot.
You're looking at a Kamala Harris type thing.
Yeah.
You really are.
A Tim Walz thing.
Tim Walz, yeah, thank you. But yeah.
I think that would be, yeah.
That's a better analogy, yes.
Yeah, so Spencer Pratt's still a long shot, but he's got a better chance than any Republican in recent memory, thanks to actually being in it. And the fact it's gotten so bad, I will say this. If Karen Bass is reelected mayor, I will have no sympathy for anything that happens to LA.
No, you could fall off into the fucking ocean as far as I'm concerned. Really, honestly.
It's LA. It used to have Republican governors. Republican mayors, excuse me.
Yeah.
It was a semi-conservative city, and now it's a hellhole landscape. So Spencer Pratt has done a great job. He said God wanted to give him 5 more months to point out stuff about Karen Bass.
I love that. I love that. He's wittier than I would have given him credit for. Of course, I never watched those shows, so I don't know how.
Yeah, they said that there's an estimated 322,000 votes still outstanding.
Okay. What's the total vote count so far?
Total vote count so far is somewhere on the order of about 450-ish, 470,000, based on my very rough math.
Oh, okay. So there's still about there's like 40% of the 45% of the votes that are still need to be
38% of the vote is still
38.
out.
Okay. Geez, my math was way off. Sorry.
That's why I say I don't know why they can't do this in a night. Every single other state in the union can do this in a night. Or at least every red state can.
Every red state can. Yeah, I was going to say, that's not quite true, but I wasn't going to correct you.
Do you want to talk about the governor's race?
I do want to talk about the governor's race, because that has a much bigger impact on the United States, obviously, than the LA mayor's race. But there's some good news there from what I remember reading. You got the numbers?
Yeah. Right now, first of all, let me back up. For the last almost 20 years, Republicans have been locked out of the general election in California running for governor, because in 2010, almost 20 years, because in 2010, California approved this, what they call a jungle primary system, where everybody, regardless of party, runs in the primary, and the top two advance to the general.
Right.
Well,
right.
Since the state is so democratic, you usually get two Democrats at the top of the ticket.
Just real quick, correct me if I'm wrong, if the incumbent gets 50+%, they automatically get it, right?
Whoever's running, if they get 50+%.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just the incumbent. Okay, go ahead.
No, if you get 50+% now, but there hasn't been a Republican versus Democrat gubernatorial race in California in forever.
Right.
It looks like it's going to be this time. Now, again, there's only 56% of the vote in, which is criminal. But at this point, GOP British transplant Steve Hilton is in the lead with 27.6% of the vote, and he's leading Xavier Becerra by over 100,000 votes. He's got 1.421 million to Xavier Becerra having 1.318 million. Now, there was a brief moment in time when it looked like there might be two Republicans running for governor.
I saw that
in the general, Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco. Unfortunately, Bianco faded. More things faded when Eric Swalwell dropped out. One of the two people I'm glad are failing here. Number one is the guy in third place, Tom Steyer. He's a billionaire who is trying to take every left-wing position on the face of the planet.
He's a George Soros billionaire is what he is.
Big time. And Katie Porter,
pork chop. I like to call her pork chop.
She has absolutely failed She's a nasty, nasty woman who poured mashed potatoes on her own husband, who was screaming at her staff to get another shot. And somebody pointed this out today. I don't know if you noticed this, but you know what an anagram is, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, if you take Katie Porter and rearrange those letters, you can make it say "Eat it, Porker."
That maybe that's why I called her pork chop. Maybe I just that intuition of mine. But yeah, she's
subconsciously.
and she looks like did you ever watch that Sid and Marty Krofft fucking abortion called Sigmund and the Sea Monsters?
I think I saw it once or twice.
Yeah, she looks like one of the sea monsters. She does. Like with the seaweed and the fucking big old gross. Or did we say she reminded us of Dorothy Umbridge?
Dolores Umbridge.
Dolores, I'm sorry, Dorothy.
Well, there's been pictures online of her today in pink, wearing a pink outfit, next to a picture of Dolores Umbridge from the Harry Potter movies. That now she can go back to her true profession.
One of the all-time top villains in literary history.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, so as of right now, Steve Hilton. Now again, only not even 60% of the vote's been counted. I'm hoping there's no shenanigans going on there. But Steve Hilton is a British transplant. He's an American citizen now, but he's a naturalized U.S. citizen, having come over from Britain. And he's got a lot of people talking. Now, he'll be the underdog even against an absolute dullard and dumbass like Xavier Becerra. Xavier Becerra was the California AG. Then he was one of the cabinet secretaries under Biden. I cannot for the life of me remember which one. But he was horrible. He was doing an interview with, I believe it was ABC 7 in LA, I think, when he was, trying to tell them, now you're just going to ask me about my bio stuff. This is the gotcha interview. Basically, don't ask me any tough questions.
Right.
And that went viral. And it was a credit to the reporters and the news station that they kind of got pissed that Becerra was trying to dictate to them the content of the interview. And they're like, but this is our interview. We're going to ask the questions. And,
Dollard, like you said, Dollard.
But he's going to be the favorite in November simply because of how blue California is. But does this energize the California Republicans to start coming out? And California's gotten so bad that maybe I still don't put Hilton's odds at more than 25% tops. But that's better than any conservatives had in California in a long time.
Yeah, and what needs to happen is that fabled state of Jefferson, that Northern California and Southern Oregon, which wanted to secede from the Union or still does. You need to get the state of Jefferson, the old Inland Empire from Fresno down to Bakersfield, and big parts of Orange County. You need to get those folks mobilized. If those people come out and vote, it's gonna. Those people don't vote. They gave up a long time ago.
They had a candidate to vote for.
They didn't have a candidate to vote for, and you got the supermajority there in the California House. You've had nothing. The last Republican, and he was only a suit Republican in name only, Arnold Schwarzenegger, was the last Republican governor there. It could happen. It could happen. What I don't get, Russ, and maybe I study sociology. I study people. I have an advanced degree in psychology, a field in psychology. I fucking don't get it. When things are so bad, but you refuse to change, you refuse to budge because you're so dogmatic. It doesn't work. It's like if I walked outside and I wore pink pants, and every time I wore pink pants, a squirrel monkey came down from the fir tree and had its way with me every time, I would change my fucking pants. I would change my pants. Okay? It's just, that was a weird analogy, but you get what I'm saying. Why not try something different? I can tell you this. I don't think you and I are dogmatic. We definitely are in a frame of reference that we don't stray too far out of. But if there was a Republican that was blowing up the state as bad as they've blown up the state, I would vote for somebody else.
Well, I told you there was a period of time prior to 2024 that if he had run, I may have supported Joe Manchin.
Yeah. No, I would too. I've voted for Democrats in the past here in Washington State. Unfortunately, one in particular that I appreciated his help got my mom her Social Security because she was my mom. I hate to say this, but my mom never did become an American citizen. She was a legalized alien, naturalized, I guess is what they called it back in the day. but she was due her Social Security because she moved here in her teens with my dad, lived here her whole life and paid into the system and, perfectly legal. And she couldn't get Social Security. So I went to a politician. I'll leave the name out. Politician's office in my uniform. Asked for an audience. He talked to me. My mom had her Social Security within a week, and so
Nice.
I was really impressed by that. Democrat. It's like, okay, that's a guy who can get things done, and he was pretty moderate. Now he's gone all the way to the left. Unfortunately, he's become one of those. He was kind of a Bill Clinton Democrat. But he's a AOC type Democrat now. He votes with, he's a Nancy Pelosi guy. So I'm not, there used to be a time where we would trade back and forth, Republican, Democrat up here in Washington State with the governorship. And we had some really good Democrat governors and senators. We did. I mean, that you didn't really, there might be a thing or two that you'd go, well, I wish you hadn't voted that way. But you got it. It just doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't exist anymore. And I don't understand that. I don't understand it. Still to this very day. It's evil.
I want to extrapolate this out a little bit further to the midterms, and tell you why I'm more optimistic about the midterms than maybe some people. So Koop, brief recap. What were the 2022 midterms like for Republicans?
They were disappointing, to say the least. There was supposed to be this big red wave, but it never happened.
There was supposed to be a big red wave. I called it the red mist.
Mm-hmm.
You had a couple of things here and there, but they didn't take back the Senate.
Right.
They took back the House, I think. Yeah,
they did by
the House.
2 or 3, I think it was.
But yeah, not by much. And a lot of the stuff in the Senate had to do with the candidates they ran. Everybody from Kerry Lake to Don Baldock to Herschel Walker.
Herschel Walker, right.
They selected some very bad candidates. In a year where Joe Biden was unpopular, they should have swept themselves to victory in at least 5 more Senate races and probably a dozen more House seats.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was very disappointing.
I think we're heading for that. And again, I might be wrong. Maybe I'll have to eat my words on this. I think we're heading for that in reverse in 2026. And let me tell you why I think that.
You think there's supposed to be a big blue wave and it's not going to be a big blue wave? Is that what you're saying?
Well, everybody's talking about a big blue wave, and I don't think it's going to materialize because
I don't see it.
2 things. First of all, because of, in the Senate, candidate selection. Look everywhere from Maine, where they have a serial sexual predator, Nazi tattooed asshole who's
Fuck, don't even get me started. Don't you get me started on that piece of shit.
Running against Susan Collins. In Texas, Ken Paxton is not the best candidate, but they have decided to run soy boy, God is non-binary, there are 6 genders, vegan James Tallarico, the guy who said he eats meat by wrapping a turkey leg with a napkin so he doesn't get his precious little fingers dirty.
Can he just come out of the closet already, please? Come on, guy.
Yeah, and they're running him as a Senate candidate in Texas. The guy who's liable to win the Michigan primary is Abu al-Sayed, a guy who praises Hamas and said that he couldn't, people that he knew were sad about the death of the Ayatollah.
Right.
They could have nominated Sally McMorrow, but they're probably going to go with al-Sayed, according to the polls right now. And then in the House, you look at the redistricting in Florida, in Tennessee, in Texas, Missouri, Alabama, Mississippi. You look at those redistrictings. Here is my way too early prediction for the 2026 races. Democrats will probably pick up North Carolina.
Yeah.
Because Roy Cooper,
who
was a very popular governor, he'll win there. But I think the Republicans will hold serve in Maine. I think they'll hold serve in Texas. I think they'll hold serve in Iowa, although the guy that they nominated in Iowa is not the crazy leftist, so that's always a possibility. I think they hold serve in Ohio, and I think they pick up seats in Michigan and Georgia, which will lead to a +1 in the Senate, and I think you're looking at a +2 or 3 in the House. Now, the Democrats will make some gains in places they otherwise wouldn't, but redistricting alone will probably pick the Republicans up 2 or 3 seats in the House.
Yeah.
Which will lead to a stronger congressional majority for the last 2 years. I could be completely wrong on that. I don't normally like to make
I don't.
predictions. I'm
I
reading the terrain,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing 2022 in reverse.
I think you and I don't know that. I'm trying to think if there's anyone that I disagree with you on. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think you're right. There's not going to be a big blue wave. I'm sorry, because even people look. The independents the independents. They're or the moderates or the can't decides. You're not going to get. The Democratic Party has done no favors to sway those people over to their side. None. And there's a lot of that gap in that middle gap that's going to decide these races. I don't see moderates going, oh yeah, I'm going to vote for somebody who supports Hamas.
Well,
I don't
and
see that.
if you look at it also, the last time the Democrats had a true wave, where they picked up 40 seats in the Senate, was 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And how they do it? They didn't have a bunch of crazy left politicians. They had Nancy Pelosi, but to be fair, most of the country at that point didn't really know who Nancy Pelosi was.
Right.
But 2006 was the year of the Blue Dog Democrat. They went out and recruited a bunch of moderate to conservative Democrats in a lot of, somewhat red or purple districts. That's how they picked up the majority. Right now, it's what I call a race to crazy, where Republicans are not covering themselves in glory, without question. There's, affordability issues, there's inflation issues, there's
Yep.
foreign policy issues. But when you contrast it to Democrats that are trying to promote, transing the kids and hating Jews and, climate change bullshit and abolish the police, it's people will look at Republicans and say, I don't want to vote for that, but then they look at
Open
Democrats and they
borders.
say, oh my God.
Open
Yeah.
borders, defending Somalis, defending Islam, defending all that
Defending
stuff.
the Leering centers, the fraud. Now we're a divided country. It wouldn't be a big wave, even for Republicans if they could, but it's enough where people are going to say, hey, look, I don't like Republicans very much, but I really don't like Democrats. Right now, it's a matter of who am I voting against or staying home against the most. That's really what it's boiling down to, and that's why if imagine if this was the Democratic Party of 1992, they would win 6 Senate seats, and they'd probably win 30 to 35 House seats.
Yep, I agree.
But they're not capable of that anymore because the fringe of their party, the far left wing, the Democratic Socialists, have taken over the party. And they don't really understand. I think in order for the Democrats to really start to come back around, it's going to take 2 straight election cycles. It's going to take a 2026 not winning stuff back, and it's going to take them losing in 2028 the presidency for them to understand just how far gone they are.
Do you think, complete aside here, well, let's not complete aside, do you think Fetterman changes parties? Because he's going to get primaried.
I don't think he changes parties. I think he loses his primary.
Yeah.
And I think that will open up a potential Republican seat in 28. I think Fetterman, like Josh Shapiro, would walk to victory if he was in the general election. But I think he's so pissed off, even though he votes with the Democrats somewhere around 93% of the time,
Right.
92, 93% of the time, but he's not dogmatic. He's actually saying stuff like, hey, Israel is good. Hey, let's not, chop body parts off of children. He says things like that, and that pisses off the far left base.
Or he says things like, he is the president. We should listen to him. We should try to work with him.
Yeah.
Well, what a shocker there,
Yeah. So, I told this to my wife. One of the things that I find both most amusing and most sad is that the most sane member of the Democratic Party is the one with brain damage. He had to have a stroke in order to become more sane.
That old cliche, which I get sick of hearing, is like, a liberal is just a conservative who hasn't been mugged yet. It's kind of sad to say a liberal is a Republican who doesn't have brain damage yet.
Yeah.
Hasn't had a stroke yet. I guess it probably shut off that stupid emotional little, that I almost said feminine. I don't mean to disparage women, but women tend to be more emotional in their decisions than men. And so, he got defeminized in his brain maybe a little bit when he had that stroke. I don't know. It's interesting.
Maybe. But he is going to get primaried.
He's going to get
If
primaried.
he wins the primary. If he loses the primary, 2028 being an election year, it's entirely possible the Republicans could pick up the other seat in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that is entirely possible, and that's I was half joking, tongue in cheek, but I was saying if it looks like he's going to lose the primary, but then he switches parties, then he still has a chance to run against whoever the Democrat is because
Yeah, but I
Pennsylvania.
don't think he's a Democrat through and through.
Wouldn't that be awesome though? Wouldn't that be like the coolest thing
It
ever?
would be amusing, but I mean, he's a Democrat through and through.
They would do biopics on him.
I also believe, I rarely say this about a Democrat, but I'm gonna say it about Fetterman. I really believe he's too principled to do that.
I think you're probably right. Even though I wish the motherfucker would buy a suit. Come on.
Yeah, let's get rid of the hoodies and shorts.
Yeah, that's I mean that's what I wear around here. I wouldn't wear it if I was going to the Capitol. I'm just saying.
Well, you know what my fashion sense is like, and even I don't wear that shit.
Yeah, Russ fashion sense is an oxymoron. Sorry, buddy.
Hey,
Love
look,
you.
This is one of my nice shirts.
Well, I'm the one wearing like Catholic T-shirts here, so and I'm not even Catholic. How do you like them apples?
Yeah, but I have no fashion sense, and I don't care to.
Yeah, I do. I just don't have a chance to use it very much because I live out in the middle of nowhere on a cattle ranch, and I just hang out with my dogs all day.
I feel weird dressing up nice.
Yeah, I love dressing up nice. I used to love dressing up nice. Anyway, hey, this is a good time to segue into a video I wanted to share with you. This will lighten the mood for everybody. So you may have seen this. I did post this on the page, but I thought it was worth watching here. Hold on just a second. With zero Republicans.
It ends up, when you do communism right, it works perfectly and everyone loves it.
And it only took 200 million starving to get here.
That's less than half as many as we thought.
There has been another terrorist attack with 33 dead. The American government has decided not to do anything about it since we probably deserved it.
It sure is great that abortion is now free and available for everyone everywhere.
Yeah, but it's too bad that there aren't any babies to abort since we outlawed being a heterosexual.
Murdering those families was wrong, but you're an immigrant and you probably just didn't know any better. Plus, we shut down all prisons. You're free to go.
This is wrong! You need to lock him up!
How dare you question our compassion? Execute that man immediately! I found more letters we need to add to the acronym.
It's already so large it's throwing off the rotation of the Earth. If we add any more letters, we'll die.
Then we die!
Everyone just stay in line and walk through the scanner. It's going to check how dark your skin is to see how many benefits you get. If I were you, I wouldn't bother.
The U.S. has run out of money.
Can't we just murder more billionaires and confiscate their wealth?
There are no more left. I'm afraid someone in our country is actually going to have to get a job and work.
God bless.
I have not seen that whole video. That's hysterical.
God bless the Babylon Bee. Credit to the Babylon Bee for that video. That is hysterical. And as over the top that is, so much truth to that. So much truth.
The best satire has large elements of truth in it.
Yes, and that really does. I have brought this up on clashes with people on social media. I don't even try anymore, but it's like, oh yeah, us damn Republicans. How long do you think you'd last in Seattle or Portland? How long do you think you'd be able to live without conservatives? Things like food from the farmers, logs, the longshoresmen, the guys in the merchant marine,
oil,
plumbers, construction workers. You wouldn't have nobody be able to fix. Oh, you're going to fix your car? You're going to fix your car? How many liberals do you think work in garages? Like one ever? So it's always kind of fun. I always love it when people talk about how stupid MAGA is, and it's like, do you know how smart you have to be a farmer? Do you have any idea to be able to fix equipment, to be able to plan, to be able to you only get paid like once a year in bulk to be able to manage your budget throughout the year, to be a business person.
Poetry is not very nutritious.
Yeah, exactly. What are you gonna fucking eat? Slam poetry? What is that from? I can't remember. I heard that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Can't eat a pronoun.
Can't eat a pronoun. That's really good. Anyway, do you have anything else you want to talk about before we start heading down the downslope here?
No, I think those were the two big ones that we've covered.
Yep. Yeah, I wanted to hit those big time. Yep.
I think that was the big stuff. I know you're gonna call me all kinds of names for saying this, but a week from Friday, the World Cup begins for the United States. So
when is the first match played in the United States?
I think the first match is played on June 11th, but the
June
U.S.
11th, okay.
The U.S. first match is on June 12th.
I'll watch it. I'll watch the ones that the U.S. is in. I enjoyed it that one year that we had a bit of a run with, like, what was his name? The redhead with the beard that was the goalkeeper.
Alexi Lawless.
Alexi Lawless, and yeah, I enjoyed that. We had a little bit of a run there going.
Yeah, well, we got set up in a group we should win. We're playing Paraguay, Australia, and Turkey. And if we can't get out of that group, then we don't deserve to even be in the World Cup. This is our golden generation. This World Cup and the next one are supposed to be. This is the best crop of players we've ever turned out. So this is supposed to be their showcase over the next couple. A good World Cup for us would be making it to the quarterfinals. A dream World Cup would be making it to the semifinals, which we haven't done since 1930. I think since 1930. But I did want to attend this, but I had ran into two problems. One, all the games are on the West Coast for the United States in their group. They're in San Francisco and Seattle, which kind of pissed me off because that's quite a plane ride. And the tickets became astronomically expensive.
Oh, I imagined. I can't even imagine how much.
And Congress is actually looking into this because they have all the ticket places have bought out tickets that were being offered by FIFA, and they've marked them up by several 100%. So
yeah.
you gotta be rich to be able to even get a nosebleed seat at one of these games. So I'll be watching it on TV.
And watch just like when the Chinese premier showed up in San Francisco. Watch San Francisco look absolutely spotless.
Seattle will be the same way.
Yeah, oh yeah. You're not gonna. Yeah, these tent cities and Soto, all this stuff down in Soto around this. It's garbage around our stadiums. By the way, I don't know if you know that, but where the football and the baseball, where Safeco Field and Quest is, it's garbage down there. It's a crappy part of
it up for a couple of
crappy
weeks.
part of Seattle, and the real estate wasn't as expensive as some of the other places. That's why they relocated down there, and it's just shit. I mean, there's homeless everywhere. Oh, it'll be gone up on the hillside by Harborview Hospital and the VA camp. All that'll be gone. It'll look so pristine. Democrats can do it when they have something to, something they really are motivated to do. But then 2 days later, they'll be right back. I guarantee you. After the World Cup is over, guarantee you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And one of the final thoughts that I had about Spencer Pratt, and I got one more video to play before we sign off, just a little quick comedy clip. But one thing that I think every politician and everybody in the world needs to do is keep it simple, stupid. And he's got a very simple message. He's talking about the homeless and the fires and the economy. That's it. He's not being complicated. He's keeping the message simple.
Some people can relate to.
Absolutely.
They can see their homes haven't been rebuilt. They can see the homeless guy, the drug addict outside their kid's school. They
Absolutely.
can see that stuff.
Absolutely.
And Spencer Pratt understands he's supposed to be the mayor of L.A., not some debutante flirting off to foreign nations to have a say in national affairs. He's worried about the city. That may play to his advantage. Again, it's an uphill struggle both for him and Steve Hilton, but maybe.
Yeah, our beautiful mayor of Seattle up here, who every photo that I see on social media of her, and I just reply the same thing. Could you do some real fucking work, please? That's what I replied. All it is photo ops like, oh, look, we put a sign at the park saying no ice. She's pointing to it. She's at a festival for the Bangladesh Dragon drill team or something. That's it. That's all she does.
Did you read about I think it's $144,000 toilet they installed in Seattle?
I sure did.
It got vandalized.
I sure did.
Shocking.
Shocking.
Everybody says Spencer Pratt shouldn't be elected mayor because he hasn't had any other jobs. The mayor of Seattle went from her parents' house to the mayor's house.
And here's the thing. Our mutual friend and people like that actually voted for this fuck. That's what are you doing?
And it's hysterical when she was like, all those millionaires buy. I'm like, great, they'll take their jobs. I mean, Seattle is losing Starbucks. That tells you how bad it is.
It's getting terrible. And you know what? I love Seattle in my heart because the Seattle that I lived in back in the 90s and even as recently as 15 years ago, it started kind of going downhill, but I loved living in Seattle. I had so much fun. I mean, I was like I said, I was bouncing and heading to the clubs when, Nirvana and Soundgarden, all those guys were starting to come up and get big. It was a wonderful place to live back then. You didn't have the homeless problem that we have now. Some panhandlers is all you had to deal with, and nobody fucked with me, and it's just, I'm angry and I say things and it's like, our mutual friend will put pictures like, oh, look, yeah, it's so bad here. And it's like, okay, you're on 5th and Madison where there's nothing but nice hotels and restaurants. Okay.
Well, it's like the celebrities that live in gated communities and say that there's no crime.
Right. No, it disgusts me. Let me play. This is I know you don't watch Kill Tony, right?
I haven't had a chance to recently, but I have watched him.
Oh, you have. So you know what the show's about where they
Oh yeah, Aaron Belial is probably my favorite guy that they have on.
Oh, Aaron Belial is great. He hasn't been on there in a while, but he's kind of gotten famous.
He used Kill Tony to become.
That's what it's for, though. Hinchcliffe has made some comedians' career. There's that Ari, what's his name, the Estonian guy. He's blown up, and he is hilarious.
Oh yeah, the dude who said he was watching Saving Private Ryan on the plane over. And he got off the plane in Seattle and wanted to like storm beaches, and they're all like, here's some purple hair depression.
Yeah. One of his funniest routines when he was still kind of new and before he blew up, when he was talking about being in a cafe and he's got that Estonian accent, and so everything's funny, and the way he talks and his expressions, and he's talking about sitting in a cafe and there was a couple arguing next to him, and he was listening, and he goes, and it was two men, it was a gay couple, and it was so extraordinary because there was a thoughtful point with a listening and a pause, and another thoughtful point with a listening and a pause, and another thoughtful point, because it was two men arguing instead of a man. That was hilarious. Let me play this. This is Pat O'Neill. I don't know if you had a chance to see this freak of nature. He's my new favorite comedian on here, and I'm just going to play one joke because it's kind of apropos to what we've been talking about a little bit here today. But I put the collection up on our little group chat on Messenger. Let's see. Here we go. I love this. This is great.
Speaking of overreactions, Hamas really brought a knife to a fucking space laser fight, huh? Holy shit. Out of control. I'll never understand how conflict in the Middle East has lasted so long. Considering half of them face the same way 5 times a day. Fucking sneak up behind them. Problem solved. You are welcome, Jews. Okay, thank you.
Good point. That's a good point. Just wait for the call to prayer and sneak up behind him.
Yeah, there's been a couple of comedians I've been watching on YouTube recently that I really like. One's very politically incorrect, and he's talking about the sayings that wives have about life and stuff, and says talking about affairs. Why would you go out for a hamburger when you have a steak at home? He says, well, what if that steak had a little fucking attitude? And then the other said, she's all out there saying happy wife, happy life. What if I'm out there saying, if you want to keep your hubby, don't get chubby.
That's a good one right there. I know. I know that saying goes around, and oops, what happened?
I saw Huckleberry for a second.
There I am. You saw Huckleberry there for a second. That saying, I actually know guys that actually say that, or at least I did. And then when they said that, I don't know them anymore. I'm like,
yeah,
fuck you. I actually got told, this is pretty funny. Got told not all that long ago that would you rather be correct or would you rather be happy? I'm
happy when I'm correct.
I'm like, those two things are completely synonymous in my life.
Yeah.
Meaning, why are you arguing with me? You always have to be right. It was because I'm right about this. I think about things before I talk about them a lot. I analyze a lot.
It's also funny when...
Would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? I'm like, what? That just came out of somebody's mouth.
It's like when I have arguments with people over the difference between facts and opinion. Someone was like, you're always disputing the fact that crucifixion is a horrible way to die. I said, no, that's, I believe crucifixion is a horrible way to die, but that's an opinion. Crucifixion is a horrible way to die as an opinion. Crucifixion kills you as a fact.
Right.
It's two totally different things.
I know. I always love it when I see on social media and somebody posts something that's a complete opinion, especially from the left, and people go, facts.
Like, no, it's not.
There are no facts here. Like, Donald Trump is a pedo. Somebody will go, facts. What possible fact, what possible receipt do you have to back that up? Please tell me, show me. Yeah, I like that. Anyway, let's get out of here. I'll get this up as soon as it's done downloading, and I'll go get the video up too. The video, I look like Casper, the not so friendly ghost as usual because I need a new camera.
Well, I mistook that head of yours for the full moon for a little while, but
I know. Look at that shit, man. Carolina moon keeps shining. All right. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. Look for the video. Two Grumpy Bastards merchandise.com has a lot of finally got rid of some of those placeholders and got the designs that I've been wanting to put up there for a while. So got a new one up there as of yesterday, which is pretty cool. I got to admit, I'm going to get that one with the George Washington.
I got to go on there and get some stuff.
Yeah, it's some pretty good stuff. I'm gonna get some. People have been asking for hats, so I'm gonna. A lot of our designs aren't really like hat friendly. So I'll kind of dumb some of them down and see what I can come up with for some hats. So I know I hate wearing hats. Number one, I take a lot of time with my hair. Number two, I don't like the feeling of something on my head.
I had to wear a hat in the Army. I didn't care for it.
I hate it. I don't know if I ever told you real quick. When I used to golf, I golfed with a couple of my buddies from school from way back, and I had a Washington Husky visor because I don't like anything on top of my head. I don't like that hot feeling. I hate it when I worked for a Weyerhaeuser company out here because you're always wearing a hard hat. Oh God, I hated wearing a hard hat. And so I was wearing a visor, and my hair was longer then and kind of wavy and nice. And you know me, I like my hair. And one of my buddies looks at the other buddy and goes, "Hey, do you know why Koop wears a visor?" No, why? He goes, "Because he wants God to see how nice his hair is." It's one of the funniest slams ever, and kind of accurate. Anyway, this is Koop, Big Koop from the Pacific Northwest. That's Russ from the wilds of Tennessee. And remember to keep your focus and
stay wokeless.
Well, hey, everybody. This is Koop, the handsome and debonair one of the Two Grumpy Bastards podcast. Not to mention I'm the only one that's an actual bastard. Google that shit. Don't, actually. Hey, I'm here to do a shameless plug for our merchandise. You can find us at 2grumpybastardsmerchandise.com. We got a whole bunch of new merchandise in. I think you'll like some of the new choices. There's some pro-Second Amendment. There's some anti-Washington State Governor stuff on there. I think you'll really appreciate it. New stuff coming all the time. I have 2 great designs in the works, so please, to support this podcast, that's one of the easiest ways to do it. We're also on Etsy. Yeah, I know, Etsy. You can find our products on eBay as well. Storm King Mercantile is the name of the store there that fronts us. And there's many, many other ways to support this podcast, of course. We have a Patreon page, same thing, 2 Grumpy Bastards. We certainly would appreciate you following us on Instagram. Most of you probably know we have a Facebook page, 2 Grumpy Bastards Podcast. We have a lot of fun over there, a lot of frivolity, a lot of memes, and a lot of hard-hitting news. Believe it or not, a lot of great people in that group. Also, all of the social media outlets, including now on TikTok. You can find us there. And one of the things that I really wanted to tell you is if you have any feedback for Russ, especially because he kind of sucks, feel free to email us at 2grumpybastards@gmail.com. That's the easiest way to get a hold of us, or you can always leave us a comment or an IM on, or DM, I should say. See, I'm so savvy. I'm so savvy. On our Facebook page. So we really appreciate you listening or watching us over there on YouTube as well. And we hope you do both, because Russ is something to look at. I said something. I didn't say something really great to look at. Anyway, thanks for listening. This is your intrepid, amazing, and grateful host of the 2 Grumpy Bastards podcast, Koop. Remember, keep your focus and stay wokeless.